there's enough piece of the pie for everybody in Siem Reap, and everyone's after a different slice.
Yes.
Um, for us, it's very clear. We are the people that are looking for that golden age of travel. If the walls could talk, as we've mentioned, that heritage, that history, this is where you go to the Raffles. But there's some other hotels that are outside of town, for instance, that feels a
Yeah.
little bit more villas and everything. Absolutely, you can have it all
Yeah.
essentially in here in Siem Reap.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos, and you are watching the podcast Where to From Here, where we feature some of the most luxurious hotels and their leaders, owners, designers, and workers, and everyone from all over the world. Today, we are going to a place that I really love in Cambodia, and that's Siem Reap. And of course, Angkor in Siem Reap is home to the temples, which are just so magical and amazing. They have to be seen to be believed. And I really think one of the most prestigious hotels there that really is a symbol of the golden era of travel still to this day is Raffles Angkor. And I was so spoiled. I stayed there with my family recently. We had Christmas there, which was incredible. And the wonderful general manager, Joseph Colina, is here to chat with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Renee. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, tell us about your journey and how an American man has ended up in Southeast Asia and in Siem Reap of all places.
Exactly. Well, it has been a journey, certainly, to say the least. This is probably around 2017. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and about 2 years before, I had done a little bit of a Southeast Asia trip, and I had actually stayed at what was going to be my new hotel. I stayed at the Metropole in Hanoi, and I met the general manager, and fast forward, then the interview comes, coming from Washington, D.C. A day later, they say, "You've got the job and you're now a legend." I still remember that email from my soon to be mentor. "You are now a legend." And I was packing my bags in May of 2017 and on my way to Hanoi, Vietnam. So, Washington, D.C. to Hanoi, just a little bit of a culture shift, if you would.
Wow.
And I was there in 2017 at that beautiful hotel. And I think you've stayed there, right,
Yeah,
Renee?
I stayed there twice and recently with the beautiful general manager, George, and we actually had Christmas Day there, which was amazing.
Stunning, stunning, absolutely. So yeah, that's how I found myself in Southeast Asia, and I have been in Vietnam and now in Cambodia for what? That's about 8 years or so. So it's really been
Wow.
now it's kind of home now.
And I mean, that is really quite a shift. That's probably one of the
It
most
really
dramatic
is.
I've heard. And what were the biggest challenges of moving to Southeast Asia for you?
Well, I mean, certainly everyone is going to talk about the culture and everything. I really wanted to make that move because I was interested. I was romanticized. I really just kind of fell in love with the luxury that I was experiencing when I was there.
Mm.
So the challenges were many, not being understood as I walked down the street, right? And my Vietnamese, unfortunately, is still not unbelievable to say the least. But there is that kind of language of hospitality when you're in the hotel, and it was a little bit of a learning curve. But at the end of the day, we all knew luxury and we were all able to exhibit that and we were all able to make sure that we matched up with the guests expectations. So was really just a little bit of a learning curve right at the beginning, but after that we kind of settled in and it was just some really amazing and fun times.
Did it live up to your, like Southeast Asia? I guess, Hanoi we're talking about just in this part of the conversation. Did it live up to your romantic ideals and expectations?
It did, absolutely. It surprised me in some places. I always tell people about specifically the Metropole in Hanoi and even Siem Reap, and we'll get to my hotel that I'm currently at soon. But the Metropole, I always talk to people about the connection that that hotel has on the local population. I
Mm,
mean, you were always talking about, oh, you have an anniversary, we go to the Metropole.
right.
We have a graduation, you go to the Metropole. You have some important clients for business, we go to the Metropole. So there was a bit of there's actually a big responsibility to kind of temporarily be a custodian to a hallmark in
Yes.
a city like Hanoi that the Metropole was. It was really a very, very special place.
No, absolutely. And might I say, the beautiful Capella Hotel is across the road from the
Mm,
Sofitel Metropole in Hanoi. And on Christmas Day and Christmas night, and even the day after, my family and I, met so many people from Capella who'd come to the Sofitel for Christmas lunch, for Christmas night for dinner. So even the guests, the foreigners that are coming, I don't think a trip to Hanoi is complete without at least having a meal at that hotel.
absolutely. And you will see that it is really just someplace that you absolutely have to go to. Of course, Capella, I wasn't there when the Capella was open,
Right.
um, but I've visited since then. And I actually think it's a good place. It's right across the street for those that haven't been there. It's literally right
Oh,
across the street from the Metropole. And I think it's a kind of nice yin and yang. I mean, there's definitely that lifestyle that you have with the Capella, but when it comes to the storytelling and the heritage, you have that in spades when it comes to the Metropole. So it's a
yeah.
very nice combination. I think there's some good synergy and good for the city of Hanoi as well.
Oh, 100%. And of course, the American landscape architect, hotel designer Bill Bensley designed Capella, and many would say he is one of the most prolific and successful luxury hotel designers, possibly in the world, I was about to say, but definitely in Southeast Asia. So even just going to see his architecture is something amazing. And yes, the two together are bringing so many new people and new excitement to Hanoi. It's really a
Hmm,
great time to go there. But we're not here to talk
absolutely.
about that. That is in your
Oh
past.
yeah.
Raffles is a brand that I love. I have a funny story to tell you that I was
Okay.
reviewing Raffles in Singapore. Of course, that is the home hotel of the Raffles brand. It is absolutely incredible. It had a
Hmm,
multi-million
absolutely.
pound renovation that took 2 years. I went to review it, Joseph, and I got stuck there during COVID. Poor me. They just
Oh
had to keep putting me
well,
up.
I mean
I
that's not the
couldn't
worst
leave.
thing in the world.
Stranded in Raffles. I think that'll be the name of my hotel review book one day.
Absolutely.
And I was really pleasantly surprised when I stayed at your hotel. A lot of the hallmarks of the Raffle brands you
Hmm.
really do experience there. How do you maintain that? How do you carry that across to a location like Cambodia and Siem Reap?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The DNA of Raffles runs extremely deep from 1887 when the Raffles Singapore came about. And not many people know this is that the Raffles Cambodia hotels, both Phnom Penh and my hotel in Siem Reap, were actually the second Raffles in 1997. And like I said, it's really comes down to that DNA. One of the things that I always like to talk to my team, and by virtue of that, the guests as well, is we are always have been the champions of culture. Like I talked about with the Metropole, Siem Reap also holds a very special part in modern Siem Reap. Everyone knows us as the Grand Hotel.
Yes.
Maybe not the Raffles, maybe not great for the brand, but the local people, they always say, we go to the Grand Hotel. And it's a very, very special place in modern Siem Reap and everything. We've been around since 1932 and practicing hospitality continuously with a little bit of some pauses there as here and there. But we've been open since 1932 and really just those champions of the culture as well. Another thing that we do is we're known for our service. And I have to talk, of course, about our butlers. You
Yeah.
probably had butlers in Raffles, Singapore.
Yes.
We have that
And you've got the
same.
video, that amazing video. Sorry to cut you off, of the butlers. Keep talking because we'll show that while you're talking about them,
Well,
I'm sure.
I'm so happy that you did because I want to talk about that because that media campaign. I think you talked about the Butler did it, right?
Yes. Yes. I love it.
And it is absolutely, and of course, toe the party line. I'm supposed to say I love it, but really, I mean, it just works so well for me. First of all, personally, I'm a big whodunit, kind of the Agatha Christie. Was it the cook? Was it, and then the butler, and it's just so perfect. The butler did it. Of course, we didn't even know, and the butler took care of it as well. And I think it
Yes.
also speaks to, and it's a very exciting time for Raffles right now as well, is that with all these new properties that are opening, of course, London and my home country of the US in Boston as well, the brand is developing as well. And there's that charming English wit,
Yes.
that's kind of the playfulness that comes in. And I think that you see that in that this latest media campaign when it comes to the Butler did it. It was I think extremely well done.
No, absolutely. And I saw that the Australian Guy Haywood, who's been on my show and who's absolutely
Yes.
fantastic, he's now with Raffles and a part of this kind of global rollout. And it just feels like a really exciting time in the Raffles brand evolution to me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Raffles and Fairmont now part of the luxury and lifestyle of Accor. I mean, first of all, talk about a big change. They've decided that no, we are going to be in New York City. Accor, a French company and everything. No, just that in itself, right on Fifth Avenue, kind of makes it's a hallmark of change. And so that's so of course Guy Haywood, as you mentioned, now he's working in the head office in New York City, and it's really a very exciting time and making sure that we are working with all of the people in Raffles to create this. I don't want to say new identity because we still that Raffles Singapore story that you mentioned, it's still very much in our blood, in our history, but it doesn't mean that we can't have fun with it as well. That playfulness and wittiness that I talked about.
Have you been to the property in New York yet?
No, no, I have seen it before it actually had the grand opening. We were at the Plaza, which is of course a Fairmont hotel. I was at a GM conference there, and we saw a little bit. It was kind of hard hats, but I haven't seen it. But I've seen some beautiful pictures and everything like that. But I look forward to probably this summer when I go back home. I will take a quick little peek at the New York Fairmont Raffles office.
Yeah, lucky you. And tell me, the Sarkis brothers, of course, were the original family that built Raffles Singapore and several other properties in the region. Did they build either of the properties in Cambodia?
No, so we actually have a French architect. So what happened was, so I think in the 1930s, or I know in the 1930s, that those world fairs, right? So there was the St. Louis World Fair. There was also the Paris World Fair, where everyone was to come. So there was a Cambodian contingent that came to the Paris World Fair. Two entrepreneurs saw that, and they said, "Well, you know what? This is an opportunity." They came to Siem Reap. They visited what was at the time called the ruins, not the temples, but the ruins of Siem Reap. And they said, well, listen, what we're going to do is we are going to build kind of an auberge, so a little inn, if you would. And that inn, 90 years later, is now the Raffles. The pool, if you know the pool in our hotel, that massive, beautiful pool, that's where you got onto your elephant as you went right into the jungle and everything. So it's when it comes to opening up, when it comes to hotels for me, I really just love that heritage component where, if the walls could talk, right? That golden age of travel, Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard and everyone coming in. The Jackie Kennedys in the 1960s came to our hotel as well. So it's really just that combination of a charming luxury hotel, but also the history that comes with it. It's just really very special for me.
And I have to pay, homage to your architects and designers who bring that heritage into the modern era. Because I think your hotel really is a great example of that. As you mentioned, the pool area. But my favorite was just that lounge area, kind of extension of the lobby, where you can have a cocktail, high
Oh,
tea,
yeah.
coffee, whatever you want at any time of the day. And it feels almost like you're in someone's luxurious house.
Absolutely, and I love the name for that. I mean, we don't use that enough, but it's called the conservatory, and I think that's just a lovely name, and it just kind of harks back to kind of a different time, a different era, right? And I absolutely know it can be. It's very multifaceted. We can use it for our afternoon tea, in the afternoon, of course, and then it kind of turns into like maybe pre-dinner. If you want that martini or the gin and tonic and everything, we're absolutely able to do that. You can have our gin butler as she travels through with the gin cart, make you a martini while you're sitting there in conservatory right before you go to dinner.
It's heavenly. And tell me about your restaurant because, I was there with my
Absolutely.
17-year-old twins and we were all amazed at these amazing degustation menus. And we each got to choose whichever one we wanted from a particular era, from this golden era, from Raffles.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when I first came, the restaurant was working. And maybe I back up just a little bit and just the importance of food and beverage right now to a hotel, which has traditionally been maybe a room industry, just
Yes,
can't be overstated. I mean, I personally, or friends of mine, we choose hotels that have, some amazing restaurants there, or maybe I want to be in a section of the city
yes,
because I know that there's some really fun little concepts and restaurants or bars and everything like that. So food and beverage has just become so important
for sure.
to the emotional core of the hotel. And absolutely, I think we hit the nail on the head when it came to 1932. Of course, an eponym for our inauguration date. We opened up in 1932, our Raffles Siem Reap, and you said it. We decided to kind of do a little bit of storytelling because people are
Yeah.
not familiar with Khmer food. Maybe they know Thai food.
Yes.
Vietnamese food is really well known throughout the world, of course, but Khmer food, there might be some blind spots. So we wanted to make sure that there was a storytelling. So yes, we have four different eras in Cambodia's history: the 1930s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 90s. And we have little tasting menus
Yeah.
that you're able to have within those 1930s, of course, as I mentioned, the Paris World Fair, the opening up of Siem Reap to the rest of the world. So that's going to
Wow.
be our Khmer heritage food and dining experience. 1960s was the golden age, so it's a little bit more funky, a little bit more fun, a little bit more of some exciting elements that may not be in the tried and true heritage menu as well. So you can really have all the different aspects that Khmer food has to offer. It's really, and
I love
honestly,
butter.
I urge people to try Khmer food if they
Oh,
can. It
oh,
really is. I mean, there's some elements that you recognize maybe from Thai, but the
yes.
subtlety in the use of the spices, not spiciness, not heat, but
No,
the subtlety and the
flavors.
discretion that they use is just really, really absolutely incredible.
No, I agree. And one of the things I love, because I am a bit of a wellness and health freak, is that there's not a lot of
Mm,
carbs in it. Whereas you would go to most
yes.
Asian countries and you always have rice. That is not the case in Cambodia, with modern day Cambodian food at least. A lot of it just doesn't come with rice or noodles. It's very salad based, which is fantastic for your health.
So you can be very much, whether it be vegetarian, for instance, we have a plant-based menu on
Right.
our 1950s. So that the 1950s is a plant-based menu.
Wow.
And you would think that it would be hard to do that, but the chef was like, actually, that's kind of what I eat at home. That's quite
Wow.
normal for us. So there
Yeah.
is definitely a wellness attribute that's
Elements. Yeah.
already built in to the system,
Yes.
to the cuisine, if you would.
No, it's beautiful. And of course, you've got the spa, speaking of wellness, downstairs opposite the pool. And something else, a little insider tip that I've included in my review. I know this is the tiniest thing at the
Mm.
hotel, but with the beautiful fresh ice blocks they gave us sitting by the pool, like for free as a little surprise. It was just such a lovely gesture.
Absolutely. And the pool, I it is used, it's probably our amenity that's used the most and for the longest during a
Right.
person's stay, right? You
Yeah.
have your breakfast, you have your dinner in 1932, but there are people lounging at the pool for hours on end, as they should, because
Yeah.
they've woken up at the crack of dawn to go see this beautiful sunrise at Angkor Wat. They are done at 9:30 or 10 a.m.
Yes. And it's
Then they,
hot.
then
It's
it's then
hot.
it's pool time. Then now they're
Yes.
off, and then they can enjoy
Yes.
Siem Reap in the evening. The town itself is a really exciting kind of fun bohemian town,
I
but the
know.
pool,
People I talk to, they think I'm making it up. But your town, is it Angkor is the name of the town, right? It is funky. Like there's lots of little bars, there's lots of people around. In fact, there's heaps of bars, and there's loud bars, there's low key bars, there's sort of Oriental style modern bars, there's East meets West. There's everything there.
well, I mean, I tell people, I mean, if you were to pick a town in Southeast Asia with 300,000 people, that's the population of Siem Reap, a small town, you would
Wow.
not have all of the elements that you have here in Siem Reap. I mean,
Yes.
because we benefit from having a bucket list item, the temples,
Yes.
of course. But what has grown out from there is there's an amazing food scene, the bar scene, as you mentioned. the artists. We have our artists in residence. We have art galleries that are going on all throughout the
Amazing.
year here. Some really talented people. We have the circus. The LGBTQ plus community is really, really very strong here. So it's really kind of turned into a kind of a hotbed of a fun little activity. Certainly not on
Absolutely.
the grand scale of Hanoi, but in some ways, there's something nice to have that kind of sleepy town where you can actually walk in,
Yes.
you can actually be a pedestrian in, and to be able to just kind of explore these wonderful nooks and crannies of this ancient town.
And you've had world class artists there historically, like literally
Oh,
world class, like amazing.
absolutely,
And the other thing, I know
absolutely.
you might think I'm cheeky mentioning this, but there's so many five-star hotels because of the temples that therefore if you have a longer stay, there's loads of hotels to explore, bars to explore within other hotels. So I mean,
Ab-
your hotel's absolutely the best to stay in, but there's just so much. It's not a sleepy little touristy town at all.
well, I have no problem mentioning other hotels because first of all, they all do a great job, and also I'm in the business because I love hotels, right? This is something that, I mean, it's a passion of mine, so I love to
Yes.
go and experience other people's hotels as well. But
Yeah.
there's a there's enough piece of the pie for everybody in Siem Reap, and everyone's after a different slice.
Yes.
Um, for us, it's very clear. We are the people that are looking for that golden age of travel, if the walls could talk, as we've mentioned, that heritage, that history, this is where you go to the Raffles. But there's some other hotels that are outside of town, for instance, that feels
Yeah.
a little bit more villas and everything. Absolutely, you can have it all
Yeah.
essentially in here in Siem Reap.
No, absolutely. And Joseph, when you travel, I bet you travel in luxury, being a GM of Raffles. And where do you like to go in the world if you're given a choice?
Sure. I mean, so I do travel in luxury, not because, but because I absolutely love it and adore it. But there's also when you do work in the hospitality industry, there's a camaraderie, there's a group that you're able to make, and when it comes to connections and everything. So I'm very lucky in that respect to be able to say that in most cities, if I don't know somebody myself, I know somebody who knows somebody and everything, so that we can make
Yes.
sure that we do. I do love traveling here in Southeast Asia. What boggles the mind for me, and I'm from the US, I'm from Texas originally. So I do have
Wow.
Mexico, that's not too far away, but to the ability to take a 45-minute flight and have new culture, new
Yes.
food, new language, new people, new everything. So I could go to Laos, I could go to Luang Prabang, I can go to Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City. KL is not too far away. Bali is a
Yes.
little bit further. Singapore. The ability to be able to kind of explore Southeast Asia on small little weekend getaways is really something that I really enjoy doing.
No,
I
it's
do love
phenomenal.
enjoy. I do love going back home, but I love to visit. But I also kind of come back home, so to speak, to Southeast Asia. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And I love, as we mentioned, I love exploring different and new hotels. You get inspired by that when it comes to luxury. That's very important as a hotelier. Even one that's been in it for 22 years,
Wow.
you always find these new inspirations when you're visiting other beautiful hotels and
No, and I think
restaurants.
particularly at this moment in time, I mean, luxury hotels are absolutely having a moment globally. You touched on Mexico,
Mm,
the Middle East. I mean, Southeast Asia, there's so many hotels going up there. My inbox is full of invitations to the opening of this and the opening of that. It's so exciting.
absolutely, and it's no different here in Siem Reap. The luxury hotels, we're thriving, and more and more people are looking to come to Siem Reap and to Southeast Asia, and to make sure that they are staying in that luxury. The luxury travel has kind of changed a little bit. I remember coming here in 2015. There's a lot of when it comes to that sustainability, there's a lot of interest in making sure that they delve into the community itself,
Yeah.
right? When it comes to, we've talked about artists, so we have these wonderful, amazing art tours. We have our resident historian in house. He is in demand left, right, and center because people want to have that kind of museum experience while they're staying at the Raffles as well. And then I've talked about the gin butler, the gin experience. Gin is very important for Raffles. It's been with it since the 1880s and everything.
Wow.
And we have our gin butler here as well. And we also make sure that we do our curated journeys. I don't know if you were able to do that when you were here as well.
We were only there very briefly because we were on such a whistle-stop tour. I need to come back because I haven't even met your gin butler. Now there's a problem.
No, that absolutely. You take our master class, come to you can be well fed, good libations, and we can make sure that it's just top to bottom with some wonderful Raffles curated journeys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But look, before we go, Joseph, we ask everyone where to from here. And you might want to talk about your next trip. You might want to talk about what you're doing today or what's happening with Raffles. So where to from here for you?
Well, I'm very excited because this is very good timing because I leave Thursday. So that's 2 days from now. I go do some beautiful skiing in the French Alps.
Oh, which Alps?
And,
which ones?
oh, yes. So I am absolutely chomping at the bit, ready to go. It has been an absolutely very successful high season here in Siem Reap. But now it's 10 days of skiing for me. I'm actually, Renae, I'll cut quite the figure at Siem Reap International Airport. I actually do have my own skis. So I'm just picturing myself checking in my skis in Siem Reap Airport, and they're just like, what in the world is this guy doing?
He's going to be wanting to confiscate them.
What is this? I have no idea.
Where in France? Which Alps are you going to?
So I will go to Metropole, so the Three Valleys.
My favorite. Where are you staying? Where are you staying?
I stay at my friend's lodge. So yes.
Because my favorite place to stay there is Le Coucou.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. I'll have to check it out. I'm not familiar with that.
The best thing about the hotel is that they ski in, ski out. I'm not a very good skier, Joseph. You sound like a gun. You sound like an off-piste. I'm certainly not. But when you leave and arrive, they have the most gorgeous gentlemen all there to fit your boots and your skis and take them off. And as far as I'm concerned, and you can ski from La Folie Douce, it's only like... It's only sort of 500 meters from...
It's a fun place, Folie Douce. I think you're right nearby the place that I'll be staying as well.
Right.
I'll check it out. No, thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I learned to ski in... I'm very lucky. I learned to ski in Val d'Isère. So the French Alps, they're in my heart. There's no better place.
They're in there.
Ski,
absolutely.
Right? Lucky you.
I am so excited. So that's the next place I am going in 2 days. A complete change of the weather. So I am absolutely looking forward to it.
How wonderful. You have a fantastic trip. It is just fantastic to speak with you and take care. And hopefully we will meet a person at some stage in Raffles Angkor.
Absolutely. A pleasure talking to you. Thank you for the time.
Lovely to talk to you too. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.